What's up, YouTube land, and welcome back to the channel. On this installment, I'm going to start doing the entire interior removal of the Genesis that I bought for the rear-wheel drive swap on the Veloster. I'm going to show how to remove the entire interior out of this car. So everything, including the seats, the dashboard, headliner, center console, trunk pans, everything as far as interior goes is going to get stripped from this car today. Once I get the interior stripped, then I'll start stripping the probably strip the engine out first, or I'll strip the body panels. Then after I strip the body panels, then I'll pull the motor, the wiring harness. I might pull the wiring harness first, I don't know. But this video is going to be completely disassembling the entire interior in this car, getting all the electronics squared away so that I can start getting the rest of the car tore apart. Like I said, I'm going to tear this car apart completely down to a skeleton before I start working on the Veloster. So probably be about a month or a month and a half before I start actually working on the Veloster. All that time is going to be working on this car, and then I've got another car that I'm working on that you'll see a video for that here in the near future. Bought my daughter a 2003 Volkswagen Beetle, so I'm gonna be doing a couple videos on that vehicle as well. But yeah, let's get into tearing the interior out of this Genesis. All right, so the first thing you need to do is remove the 14mm bolts that are right here and right here, and remove the two in the back. Then you got to disconnect all these airbag and seat adjustment electrical connectors. I'm going to disconnect all these and then the seat will come right out. Okay, to disconnect these connectors, this one, you have to pull that black tab back and then you can squeeze this. This one, you grab the white part and slide it back and then the connector pulls off. This one, just squeeze the tab and it comes off. This one, just squeeze that tab and it comes off. Now that all those are disconnected, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the seat. So in order to remove the rear seat, you have a little strap right in the center underneath, and mine was buried down in between the seats, but you can see it right there. Pull that, and that allows you to lower the seat down. I got a piece of glass in my finger, hold on. So, once you get that lowered down, then you can peel this back piece of carpet up. You've got a 14mm there. Yeah, I've cut myself a couple times, and you got a 14mm over there. Take both of those out. Seatbelt slides out of these clips on both sides, and then the top of the back seat should come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those bolts and get the top of the back seat out. All right, now that I've got the back of the back seat out, and these brackets don't come out, so those bolts were a 12mm. Take both of those bolts out and then push down on the seat and slide it forward, and then that'll swing back behind it and you can slide the whole seat out. So this is a better view of the release. So that's what triggers that latch right there for the seat. All right, now that I've got the back seat out, I'm gonna go ahead and take the lower seat out. And what I need to do is I need to remove those two 10mm, these two right here, and those two right there. And then the whole back seat should come out. Now that it's got clips in the front, you just grab underneath here and pull up and it'll pop out. And I'm getting cut to shit with all this glass. But anyway, I'm gonna remove all 8 of those 10mm bolts and pull the back seat out. Okay, so I was incorrect. Those 10mm bolts are just holding in anchors for car seats. The only bolt that you have to take out is this 12mm right here, because it's holding the rear of the seat and it's holding this bracket on. Once you get that off, the whole seat comes out. Now, if you need to service your fuel pump, there's where your fuel pump's gonna be, right there, right there. This has probably got a split tank like the Audi with a transfer pump. I'm not certain, but I will figure that out later. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start pulling interior panels. So I'm gonna start pulling these rear interior panels, the trunk trim, the deck lid, these panels over here, and get it to where I can start ripping the back end of this thing out. All right, so the first panel that I'm gonna remove is I'm gonna remove this panel right here, the side panel. So I'm gonna go ahead, actually no, first panel I'm gonna remove is gonna be these panels back here. So I'm gonna remove all those Phillips head screws, and I'm gonna remove that 12mm bolt on both sides and remove those screws, and I should be able to take those panels out. I might have to take these out first, but I'll figure that out as I go. Okay, so just as I suspected, these little plastic pop pins are holding these rear panels to these panels. So I'm gonna have to pull these panels first. So in order to pull these panels, you have to pull this panel. All you do is just grab it and pick up on it, and it comes right off. All right, once you get up there, just pull forward. That entire panel's out. Try not to do this when there's glass all over the freaking car, because this shit hurts. All right, pull the door seal out. And then you should just be able to pull the panel off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those two screws and those two pop pins, and then it should disconnect up here in the corner, just like I did up in the front, and that whole panel will come out. And then the other side's gonna be the exact same way. When you get up to here, I'll pick back up when I'm on this panel and that panel right there. All right, now that I have all those panels off, both sides, the trunk panel and all that, I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling these panels. So you should just be able to grab these and pop them out. So there's all 4 clips for that. When you unbolt the seat belt down there from the floor, you can pull the seat belt through it and hook it back up. Now these seat belts have igniters on them, so you cannot let the seat belt retract all the way. If you do, it damages the firing pin in there, and you won't be able to pull the seat belts back out. So I'm gonna put a zip tie around these seat belts before I unbolt it, and then I'll unbolt it here, down there, and right there, and take the entire seat belt out, and I'll have to disconnect the airbag connector right here. And then here's your side impact air bag sensor, and then this is for your door open sensor. So but yeah, anyway, so now that that one's off, we're gonna pull this one off. And you're obviously not gonna have glass coming down on you, but all right, there is a bolt that you have to get to. I didn't see it, so yeah, I don't care about this interior, so I'm not worried about breaking it. But you got to pop that cover off, and then there's a 10mm bolt right in there. So I'm gonna do it on that side so I don't break it. But I didn't really give a shit if I broke this one. If it is, I mean, it is what it is. It's got the clips to clip it back in, so. But I'm not using any of this shit, so it don't matter. So don't break yours. Take that cover off and take that 10mm out. Okay, so another correction. Behind this SRS symbol, there's another 10mm nut. Like I said, I don't care if I break this interior, so if I find out after the fact, but there's the recess for it. So you pop that cover off, and there's a 10mm bolt in there. Take that 10mm bolt out before you yank on it. Other than that, it's the same thing. Take that 10 out, just grab it and yank it out. And same with the back. Take that 10mm out and grab it. All right, all 3 of the bolts that hold the seatbelt in are 14mm. So you got one down here, one right here, one right there. You need to disconnect the seatbelt connector for the airbag. And what you do is you pop that little yellow piece out. So I took my razor blade and stuck it in there and popped it back, and then you can pry this back. So now I'm gonna take the seatbelt out. All right, now that I have all those interior pieces pulled out, I'm gonna go ahead and work on removing this, and I'm gonna remove the carpet from inside the trunk. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these 2 pins out. These are just tabs holding the carpet in. I'll have to use pliers to pop them out, but just pop that one out and that one out, and then I'm gonna go to the trunk and start working on the trunk. In order to remove this rearmost panel, you have to undo a screw here, screw here. They're both Phillips head, they're right here. And then once you get those out, grab the panel and pull up, and it comes off. Okay, so to remove this rear panel, you can do it multiple ways. I pulled the plastic pan with the panel. So what you essentially need to do is there's 3 screws holding it in, one here, one here, one here. All right, and then you can take these screws out right here, and you can separate the plastic panel from the upper panel, but I just pulled the whole thing out. All right, so apparently my camera shut down earlier, but you got to unscrew this nut right here. It's one of these, and then you pull the trim back or pull the seal off, stick your needle nose pliers in underneath here and pop that clip. And there's another clip right here. Do the same thing, stick your needle nose pliers in behind there and pop the clip. Whole panel comes out. Roof panel is held, or the rear deck lid panel is held in by the brake light connector, this pink push clip and this pink push clip, and then all the screws across the back that were holding the other trim panels in. But once you pop those 2 clips out and disconnect the electrical connector, you can slide this forward. You have to unbolt the seat belts from inside the car, and you have to disconnect the little trim panel. The little trim panel goes with it. But pop that off and then feed that through, and then the whole top can come off. So now that I'm down that far, I'm gonna move on to the center console. Center console, you pop the gear shift plate up. So here's the gear shift plate. It's just held in with those 4 clips. Pop it up. If you've got heated seats, you'll have connectors for that. They just squeeze in that center pin. Then you've got this little piece of carpet inside the armrest, and you've got 2 10mm bolts, one there and one right there. You've got 2 10mm bolts or nuts underneath the emergency brake. And you've got a screw here, screw here, screw there, and a screw there. So I'm gonna pull the center console, and then once I get done with that, I'll pick up. Okay, so once you get all those screws out, I had a screw that would not come out, so I actually wound up having to break the mount for it. I didn't tear it up too bad, but I wound up having to break that location because that screw will not come out. But once you get that disconnected, the whole thing slides back and picks up. You have to disconnect these 2 electrical connectors. This one is an absolute pain in the ass to disconnect. So what you have to do is you have to disconnect these 3 little lock tabs on here. So there's one, there's the other, and there's the other. And it's locked on to this. And then this, which I just fucking broke, oops. This is locked on to this right here on that little lock. So you got to flip that up to release it from here, and then it pulls apart. The other one's really easy. You just push the pin and disconnect it, but that's for the USB and the auxiliary input. So, all right, anyway. Oh, you also have to remove these panels in order to remove the center console. So these panels are sitting up in here like this. You pull this end out and then pull forward. They've got a little slot on the back that they slide onto a pin back there. But you got to pull both sides, and then there's another screw here and here going into the sides. So it goes in right there. Take those out, and then the whole thing comes off. All right, once you get the center console out, you can pull the climate control unit out. It just pulls out. It's on 4 clips. Once you disconnect the 4 clips, you've got an electrical connector here, 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 and then the clip on the cigarette lighter. So you just push in on the clip on them, pull them out, both of those. This is the one for the key, and then this is the one for the cigarette lighter. So now that that's out, now I'm going to pull this screw, and I'm going to pull the radio out. All right, take the glove box out. All you do is pop these little clips out of the inside of the glove box. They're sitting back here in the corner. So they're in there like that. You just pull it out. It's easier said than done, but you pull it through. Then you pull this arm off, and then the whole thing rolls down, and now there's pins back here that you can pull to the side, and you can pull the whole box out I'm gonna take these bolts out right here, but I'm gonna go ahead and remove the box. All right, I don't wanna break the glove box. I broke the pin trying to get it out, so I'm just gonna leave it hooked up. I went ahead and removed those two 10mm bolts. There's another one right here, and then there's one over here on the side. To get that side panel off, just stick a screwdriver in there and pry out. You got one there, and then you got one here. So if you take all the screws out holding the glove box door in, and then these two screws right here, and then take your vent out, you can pull this entire glove box assembly out as one piece. So there's a screw down here, there's 3 across the top, 2 across the side, and then I pulled the vent to make it easier to get through to push it around. And then there's a clip in the bottom corner, so then the whole glove box comes out. So there's the entire glove box. Okay, so I've removed all the bolts that are holding the front of the dashboard to the frame. I removed, there's a nut here, bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, bolt here in the side, and then a bolt or a nut up here. There's 2 more bolts right here, but I want to get the radio out first. So in order to get the radio out, you pull this forward, and then you can disconnect the electrical connectors. Once you get that forward, you can pop the speaker cover off, and this glass is cutting the shit out of me, but there's screws that you got to take out right here, and then the radio will come out. All right, so my camera kept overheating outside, so I wasn't able to capture most of this removal. I've got the headliner out, got the dashboard out, got all the rest of the pieces out. So once you get the 2 screws out of the top of where the radio is, so this is upside down, so the 2 screws that were in the top are right here. Once you get those out, you can go ahead and you also need to remove the 2 screws, 10mm screws that are holding the airbag to the metal frame in the car. And then you'll remove the instrument cluster. You have a screw up here, and then you have a screw going in right here and right here. So let me flip this over, make it to where you can actually see how this sits in the dash. Okay, so now you can see how it sits in the dash. So there's a screw there, screw there, screw there, screw there. There's 2 electrical connectors on the back. Pull the thing forward and disconnect the electrical connectors. Then to get this off, you just disconnect the electrical connectors like I showed you. You pop it forward and then disconnect those 2. Take these 4 screws out and disconnect the electrical connector for your torque meter. Take these 2 screws out and get your speaker out. And then this is a sensor that's clipped in, so you have to unhook this and then unhook the power going to it, and then you can clip it back in. There's a nut right there. There's 2 bolts down here. There's all kinds of bolts on this side, so there's one right behind here. There's multiple ones over in the corner and the side. And just take all those bolts out and then pull the whole dash pad forward. This piece right here is held in with 2 screws on the side and then 2 screws across the bottom, and then it clips in. This is just a trim panel that's clipped over. Just pop that out and you can get to the rest of the screws. And then just disconnect whatever wiring you need to disconnect to pop this front panel out, and it will come right out. So I'll show you the instrument cluster. So here's the instrument cluster. There's your 2 connectors up on the top. I've got the gas pedal out. So here's the gas pedal. The gas pedal's held in with a single bolt at the bottom. You take that bolt out, then you push the pedal back and up, and it'll come off with a hook right here that's built into the car. And then the headliner is just clipped in. Just grab it and pull down, and the whole headliner will pop out after you have the sun visors and the center overhead console out. Center overhead console is held in with 2 Phillips head screws inside the sunglass holder. There's 2 Phillips head screws inside of there. Once you take those 2 screws out, grab the sunglass holder and pull down, and it'll pop the whole center console out. The sun visors are held in with Phillips head screws, 2 Phillips head screws. And then the support for the sun visor is held in with the Phillips head screw. Pull all those out, and then, like I said, grab the headliner and just pull straight down, and it'll pop out of the ceiling. And then I pulled it out through the passenger side door. All right, as you can see, I've got all the interior out of here. So all the interior is removed except for the steering column. All the panels, the roof. The only thing left in the roof is the sunroof. I'm not going to take it out until I get all the electronics out of here. I've got the seat belts removed, got all the wiring pulled through from the trunk. So now I'm going to start removing these panels, that panel, so that I can disconnect the wiring that's running down to the underneath the car. I also need to disconnect the wheel speed sensor on both wheels, and then disconnect those couple grounds up here and up there. And then I basically have the entire wiring harness free all the way up to the center console. I'm gonna have to pull the emergency brake to pull the rest of the wiring harness out, but then I'll have the entire wiring harness pulled all the way to the front of the car. The only shit that'll be left will be the engine and the rest of the dash. I just want to point out that this car has JBL amp and infinity speakers. It also has navigation. I did not know that it had navigation. So I am going to disconnect this stuff up here from the shark fin antenna and feed it down, because that's got to go with all the wiring for the rest of the car. All right, to take the door panel off, you got a screw behind this little cover right here. And then you've got a little rubber pad in the bottom of your armrest. Pull it up and there's a screw right there. And then the rest of it's just clips. So pull those 2 screws, pop the clips, and the door panel will come right off. And then you just, once you get the clips popped, pull up on the door panel and it comes off. And then we can disconnect these electrical connectors. So those electrical connectors are disconnected. And then this one, you just clip right there and the whole thing comes out. There's the door panel. All right, everybody, so that shows how to remove the entire interior out of this car. I've got all the interior completely stripped. The only thing that's left, like I said, is the sunroof, and I'm leaving that in until I get all the electronics out of here. So next video will probably be me pulling the electrical wiring, and probably pulling the exhaust, gas tank, and rear suspension. And then I don't know, I might do body panels. I haven't really decided, but I'm gonna pull the electronics before I start pulling body panels. So I may go ahead and pull the rear axle and the fuel pump and fuel tank and all that shit. But so this is going a little quicker than I thought. It may not take me a month to get this car completely tore apart. It might take me a month. I honestly don't know. But this took me about 6 hours to get this entire interior stripped out of here. So if everything else keeps going as quick as this is going, probably have this thing completely stripped in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I don't know. You'll see as I make progress, but like always, if this video helped you out in any way, or if you like what you saw, please like, comment, share, subscribe, let your friends see what I'm doing. And just know that after all these Genesis videos are done, then the real fun starts with tearing the Veloster apart and start putting all this stuff into the Veloster. So really hope you guys are going to like this project, but I guess I will see you in the next video. Have a great one.